Saludos everyone, and today we're going to be talking about the most obscure conspiracy theory iceberg. Now, this iceberg is talking about conspiracy theories, mainly obscure ones that don't really get a whole lot of attention or aren't really thought of very often. And you don't even think about it very often. Some of these, honestly, I didn't even know were conspiracies. I didn't even know they were ideas in the first place. So it's a very interesting iceberg, and at the moment I'm recording, I don't remember who made this iceberg. It was on a Reddit post on the iceberg chart subreddit. I'm gonna go ahead and put their name up here, somewhere here. So thank you to whoever made this iceberg, because it was actually a very interesting time, and well, I had an interesting time researching it. And hopefully you guys have an interesting time watching me talk about it, because pretty intriguing stuff going on here. Some of these aren't really conspiracies, as you'll see, or I guess they're conspiracies but not in the way you typically think. But either way, it's worth a read, it's worth a watch. And I will mention now that you might see in the title, this is part 1, because there are 8 tiers of this iceberg, and it's a fairly dense iceberg. It's not very long, but it's very dense. There's a lot of information for some of these entries that if I went into all of them, all 8 tiers in one video, it would be very long, and I'm not trying to take up too much of your time. So for today we're gonna go down the first 4 tiers, and then later on we'll do a part 2 and then go down the final depths of the iceberg. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun making it, and yeah, let's get right to it. MJ triple-double streaks was to pay off gambling debts. What this is referring to is, I'm going to break this down in 2 parts. The first part is that early in MJ's career, when he was a point guard for the Chicago Bulls, he would regularly check the scorecards, visit the guys at the table, the people, taking count of everything. He would go to them and try and make sure that his stats were the best they could be, which in basketball a lot of people want to go for a triple double, and a triple double is essentially just getting a double digit number in 3 out of 5 categories, which would be points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocked shots in one game. And so people do this. This is kind of funny. MJ did this to increase his stats and make himself look better, which in turn would raise profits for him and by proxy the NBA. But the reason this is a conspiracy, I don't know why, because nowadays in the NBA, everybody does this. Lebron does this. I'm sure every top player does this because they want to look as good as possible, right? But I'm not sure why it's labeled a conspiracy. It's just kind of just I guess it's sort of like, I don't even know what the term would be. Rigging? Is it rigging to do that? I don't think so. But that's kind of the principle. It's just I guess artificially, not really artificially, because you're still getting the points, but I guess kind of just steering things in a direction to where you can get the best performance out of the current game, and to be at the top of the leaderboard, I guess, if that makes any sense. Yeah, it's not really much of a conspiracy. But moving on to the second part, which is the gambling debt, there has been a rumor, or I guess a conspiracy, for a very long time now, that MJ was a gambling addict. And it was true that he would frequent casinos. He would, he famously once said that he would take any bet. It didn't matter how much was on the line, he would go for it. And people took that to mean that, oh, this guy's got a gambling debt, he's got a problem. But during the course of history, we learned things, and it turns out no, he doesn't have a gambling addiction. Now, his retirement in '93 kind of got the conspiracy gears turning a bit, and that just inspired more, ideas of, he got kicked out because of the gambling, or something along those lines. But his purchase of the Charlotte Hornets, and passing that background check is kind of like, if he did have a gambling problem, if that was like a real thing, they probably wouldn't have let him buy the team. So I think it's safe to say that he likes gambling. I think most of us like gambling to an extent. So I think it's just as simple as dude likes to take risks sometimes, and that's it. James Garfield was purposely killed by his doctors. A little misleading, he was only killed by one doctor, Dr. D.W. Bliss, who was a Union surgeon in the Civil War. And this guy was an interesting character because he was a doctor technically, but he as we'll see, wasn't a great one. So what happened was James Garfield was shot by Charles, let me see this, Gitau, I'm gonna pronounce that so wrong, on July 2nd, 1881. And when a president gets shot, you want to get that bullet out as fast as possible. So what happened was, my cat's playing over there, Alexander Graham Bell, you might know him, he invented a machine called the induction. Mochi, could you calm down? What are you eating? What is that? Anyway, Alexander Graham Bell, you might know him. He invented this machine called the induction balance, which was essentially a machine that was created to detect metal. It was like a metal detector. It was like a, early metal detector. And so he made that, right, because they wanted to get the bullet out, so they had to know where it was. And so what he did was he sent it to this doctor, and he told him specifically, you gotta remove the metal coils from the president's hospital bed, I guess, because it would interfere with the device. And Mr. Bliss was like, I don't know about that, chief. he just didn't do it. And after 2 attempts of trying to get the machine to work, and Graham being confused as to why it didn't work, Dr. Bliss was like, "No, I got this. We're good to go. I got methods." And so he proceeded to do very disturbing things to our boy Garfield here. Or here, actually, I think there's more space here. Our boy James Garfield here went through a lot of pain, and including receiving treatments that involved sticking things up his back end. This included a specially treated blood and beef extract, and he was also fed this way on occasion, and a lot of other things that I'm not gonna name here because it's just like I don't want to. But and then lo and behold, a few days later, he dies of blood poisoning. And Dr. Bliss, being the man of honor that he is, he sends a bill to Congress, and Congress, surprisingly, does actually pay him for his work, although they only pay a fraction because the president died. And that's the story of how James Garfield died at the hands of a kind of doctor. There's actually more to this story than I'm telling you right now. It's just, like I said, I don't want to go like massively into depth on everything because it's gonna take a while to get through all these if I do. But read the story, read the full story. There's an article I found for it that's really interesting. I think I'll link it in the bio or in the description. And The conspiracy here is really just that DB Bliss, or DW Bliss, just gross negligence, just didn't even try to like be a professional, a medical professional. He just said like, oh, I know what to do. I got my methods. I don't know if you consider that a conspiracy. It's not like he intended to kill him. At least I don't think so. But yeah, that's the story. Disney faked ticket sales. I don't know what this is referring to. I tried to Google this. I tried to look for some kind of source for this statement. I don't know what it's referring to. The closest I could find to it was some kind of conspiracy back in 2018 about how Disney was buying tickets to Captain Marvel, the Marvel movie, to raise its like ticket sales and overall profitability. Which, if you just think about that for a second, does that make any sense? Like, if Disney is buying their own tickets, how are they making a profit? But yeah, that's the only thing I could really find that's like related to that. I also saw articles about how people are trying to sell, fake Disney tickets, but that doesn't have to do with, Disney faking ticket sales altogether. So I don't really know what this is referring to. If you know, tell me, because I don't really know. I honestly don't have much of a clue. Extinct animal trading rings. I'm gonna apologize again. I also found nothing on this. Nothing on Google, nothing on the web tells me, or at least not on like the surface web tells me, what this might be referring to. The owner of this iceberg made a Google Doc, a very helpful Google Doc, that has descriptions for some of the entries, and so I'm going to read the one he has for this, because I don't know where he got this information, but I'm going to read it to you real quick. A trading ring in Francophone African countries of certain extinct/unknown animals and animal parts. These animals are a type of hominid or ape and prehistoric lizard/dinosaur. Did you get that? Oswald wasn't aiming for JFK. John Bowdoin Connolly Jr. was a Texas governor in the 1960s who had previously worked as the Secretary of the Navy. Lee Harvey Oswald was in the Marine Corps from 1956 to 1959 before his mother suffered a workplace injury and he requested to take a leave from service to take care of her. In the summer of 1960, he was given a undesirable discharge due to his intentions of defecting from the U.S. in favor of the USSR. He knew he had a colleague, I guess. He knew someone in the Soviet Union that he conspired with, so they were like, kick him out. In January 1961, he wrote a letter to Congress asking, or more saying like, why was my discharge downgraded? It should not have been downgraded. And he tried to plead this case to John Connolly, but Connolly by this point had been running for mayor. He had resigned from his position as Secretary of the Navy to run for mayor. So he said, okay, well, I can't do that. But he pointed him in the direction of a successor, which was a man by the name of Fred Korth. However, this request wasn't honored. And this failure to comply is presumed to be a reason, potentially the reason why Harvey Oswald Lee went on to do what he did. And it's actually speculated that he wasn't actually aiming for Kennedy, he was aiming for Connolly, which I suppose maybe he just got, they're both named John, maybe he just got them mixed up. But that's the theory, is that he was aiming for Connolly instead of Kennedy, and he just happened to hit Kennedy instead of Connolly. I mean, he hit both. The bullet hit them both, but I think we all know which one got out of that one safe and in one piece. Oh boy, I get to say it. Government giant bone suppression. I'm gonna assume this is referring to the 2014 controversy where pictures leaked online and the Smithsonian was accused of, suppressing proof that giants really existed on Earth, because these pictures featured pictures of giant bones. But if you look at these pictures, they look rather convincing. But Photoshop is a wonderful thing, and it has been proven up till now that these are Photoshop pictures, and so they're not actually real. As a matter of fact, the original picture was posted to a website called Design Crowd that was having a contest, a Photoshop contest, and even the website itself says that anything here is fake, it's not real. And so it's kind of funny. This photo was always known to be fake, except if you were a believer, I guess. A certain Tennessee man might have some words for that, but that's a story. I mean, as far as I think that's a story. Edison covered up the original video camera. So in 1888, Thomas Edison invented what we know now as the camera. It was the first analog camera that ever existed. And for a very long time we thought, that's it. He was the first one that invented the camera. But coincidentally, in the same year, this French guy whose name is Louis Le Prince had already built a single lens camera and used it to make a brief silent movie of people walking in a garden. And I can actually show you the movie right here. It's like 3 seconds long. It's right here. This is considered to be the very first, movie ever made. Like, it's the first video footage that's ever been recorded in history. So that's really cool. This film is called The Roundhay Garden Scene, and it is pointed at as evidence that Louis was the actual inventor of the first video camera, because he actually used it and we actually have footage from it. But then before he could patent it and tour it in America, he suddenly vanished in 1890, and nobody knows what happened to him. Nobody knows anything about his whereabouts. His wife suspected foul play, but there was never any evidence uncovered to suggest that was the case. So there's no reason to assume that Thomas Edison had a hand in that, but he definitely did. Taylor paid Kanye for the 2009 VMA incident. So what this is referring to is the fact that Taylor Swift, at least at the time, was a Kanye West fan, and it was found that Taylor had gotten large cash infusions to boost her career and her presence. And so one theory goes that Kanye was paid to interrupt her speech, but simply kind of went off script, kind of just like he might have been supposed to say something else, or I don't know. The theory just states that the initial initial interruption was staged, but Kanye just did his own thing. And so I don't really know how this makes much sense, but that's the theory. I'm just talking about it. Authorship question. This is referring to the theory that Shakespeare didn't actually write all of his stories and all of his plays. And this is derived from just the knowledge that he wasn't a very high class citizen. He didn't have access to all the best education or resources. And if you read some of his plays, it's always talking about, or it has to do with, members of royalty, which he wasn't. And, they're just all written very well. So people don't really like to believe that some poor dude could write something like that, that didn't have the best education, which I presume would also mean, grammar and spelling and all that. And some people believe that this theory is derived from prejudice, mostly just the class system. this guy was too poor to be this good at writing, which is like silly, but that's what, I guess that might be the mindset behind it. I don't even know. But there's no evidence to suggest that he didn't write them, or at least there's no like hard evidence to suggest it. There's obviously some things that you can point to that'd be like, but for the most part, like, I think most people agree, like, yeah, I probably did. I mean, most writers have ghostwriters at some degree. James Patterson, one of the most prolific authors of all time. Like, that, I don't think that dude's written a book in like 20 years. But, I mean, he's still writing books to this day, but obviously, he uses other people to write his stories, and he just gives notes, I suppose. But that's an example. Is like, this isn't actually all that uncommon. I would not doubt that maybe Shakespeare did have something in the form of a ghostwriter at some point in his career. But I don't think that his most famous works, like Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet, weren't written by him or had no input from him. Like, it's just like, why is it even a question? Like, obviously he wrote all these stories. But that's what the theory is suggesting, is that it wasn't actually him. I guess make of that what you will. Anyway, that wraps up tier 1. Now we're going to move on to tier 2. 9/11 fifth plane theory. This one is a very long and complicated story, and I do apologize to break the immersion. You will see me looking down at my notes pretty often because there's a lot of information to go through. Here we go. United 23 was a flight set to depart from JFK Airport at 9 a.m. on September 11th to Los Angeles. The pilots were Tom Manello and Carol Timmons. The plane was a wide-bodied Boeing 767 with a load of about 160 passengers, 6 flight attendants, and more than 50,000 gallons of jet fuel. At 9:08 a.m., just as they were driving down the runway, a radio came in from the command center that the airport was shutting down and to stop immediately because, towers. At 9:20, they were told, beware any cockpit intrusion. 2 aircraft in New York hit Trade Center builds. Manello notified the flight attendant via intercom, and they responded saying that there were 4 weird Arab guys sitting in first class. Shortly after, they were ordered to return back to the terminal, and as they were heading back, the pilots saw thick black smoke coming from the World Trade Center. And you can imagine the horrific sight that must have been. While they were deplaning, the 4 Arab men fled the scene, leaving behind Al-Qaeda documents. Box cutters were also found in their possessions and also on other planes that luckily didn't take off. The conspiracy stems from the question of why more information about this flight isn't available, because if you look up, even the unclassified information is like pretty vague and it doesn't really get into detail about why there were box cutters in other planes and who these men were that snuck them in, and also how they got in there in the first place. You don't just bring box cutters through airport security. Somebody on the inside had to have gotten that in for them. So that's kind of, the question is, why are there so many details missing from this story? As a matter of fact, the government hasn't fully acknowledged that this happened, and it's also not you don't see it in mainstream media. I never heard about this theory or this story until I was researching this Iceberg. So it's kind of weird. Titanic Found in the 1970s. This one's not that complicated. It's really just saying that there's a theory that the Titanic could have been found as early as the 1970s rather than in 1985. And I guess the evidence for this is like one obscure trip that somebody made in the 70s where they could have come across the Titanic. But even if somebody did try at that time, it's very clear that the technology they had just wouldn't have been up to par. they could have tried it, but it wouldn't have been successful. So either way, if this theory were true, I don't see how this would be all that important. I mean, I don't even see how it's much of a conspiracy. Why would anyone hide the fact that they found the Titanic until, a decade later, unless they found something there and they cleared it out? I mean, that conspiracy could go there. Oh, they found aliens. Oh, they found rare materials, or something. I don't know. But that's the theory, is that they found it before they said they found it, and that's it. Patterson-Gimlin Massacre. So Robert Pattinson, not Pattinson, not the actor. Robert Patterson, and Bob Gimlin are two men who are claimed to have stumbled upon a real. Wouldn't it be funny if Batman was a Sasquatch hunter? They stumbled upon a real-life Sasquatch in Northern California woods. A theory goes around that they did not just find one; they actually found several of them. Some accounts say 9. And then they incidentally decided to, can I say the K word on YouTube? They Twitch server banned all of these Sasquatch. So this is kind of funny. There is a PDF document that I found, and it's like this piece where that's talking about this specific case. And it's an 8-page PDF document of this guy just absolutely tearing into this roasting these guys, and it's so funny because he's undeniably so frustrated. He's like, why are these people why and it's great. I'll link it down below because it's funny. But basically what he says is that he's saying, the way this goes, that he first explains why a certain point is or why this event didn't happen, and then he says, all right, here's why this idea is really dumb. Here's why you're stupid. And so some details I have down here is that Bob is claimed to have killed them with one shot each while wielding a Remington bolt-action shotgun. And I know nothing about guns. I'm not a gun person, so I don't know anything about how they work or the different types of ammo and just in general guns. I don't handle guns, so I'm gonna take his word for it. Now these creatures are said to be fairly large, and because they're fairly large, they're probably also fairly dense, and their fur and skin is pretty thick probably. And so what he says here is that they're said to weigh anywhere between 500 and 900 pounds, which the author compares to an elk. To which he passionately explains that never ever has anyone ever killed an animal that big with just one shot. It doesn't happen unless you get a headshot. But the reason why headshots aren't very common or practical is because do you know anything about a hitbox? If you play games, a hitbox, that's the bigger they are, the easier they are to hit. Well, imagine trying to hit a deer, for instance, in the head while it's trying to escape. Obviously you go for the body, it's a larger target, but this guy is said to have killed 9 of these things in one shot each. The only way he could have done that is if he got all of them headshots. But are we just assuming that the Sasquatches didn't fight back? That they just stand there in a row, just lined up, preferably right in front of a grave? How did he manage to shoot all nine of them in one go without reloading? Because the author goes into that too. You have to reload. It only carries 4 or 5 shells. So, I mean, how would he do that? How would he do that? And he just goes into a lot more detail. It's so funny. You guys gotta read it. I'm gonna link it down below so you guys can check that out, because it is just fantastic. It's awesome. Uncanny Valley Predator. So this theory is saying that the reason why humans have this innate fear of the uncanny valley is because our way ancestors, must have encountered a predator or some kind of threat to our species that looked like us, acted like us, but wasn't us. So the theory goes is that because we encountered that in the past, we've kind of like, humanity up to this point has kind of like adapted, or I guess evolved or whatever, to be afraid of things that look vaguely human, because at some point we must have encountered something that was dangerous, that looked like us, and that we considered to be a threat to our species. A common explanation for this is just Neanderthals, like a different subspecies of human that existed alongside us at some point. If you believe in that kind of thing, evolution and stuff like that, that's kind of where that comes from. But that's probably, that's the theory, is that, well, we encountered a, different human-like being that wasn't like us, wasn't exactly like us, and so we them all. And that's, yeah. George Lucas secret films. So what this is referring to is, how George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney in like the 90s. After that, he went off the radar. Have you the only thing he worked on between then and now is Indiana Jones 5 and 4. Well, 5 now, and then 4 then. And then also he made an animated movie called Strange Worlds. Strange Magic. Strange Worlds is a Disney movie. No, it's called Strange Magic. It was a CGI film. But this theory suggests that he's been working on other projects and other films since he quit making movies, I guess, publicly anyways, or in a more outright manner. This theory suggests that he's been working on other secret projects in the meantime, and this is actually corroborated by a statement George Lucas once said, that he was actually working on things behind the scenes. He could have been talking about Indiana Jones 5. Some people, I guess, like to think that he's been working on other things besides that. A popular theory that goes around is that he has been working on a CGI short or a film or something that's based off of his original plans for the sequel trilogy. And as we all know, the sequel trilogy is a pretty divisive thing. So, hey, big if true. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see that, Jordan LeBron footage cover-up. Around the year 2000, a young LeBron James and Michael Jordan had a private match together. They played together in a private match that wasn't broadcast, wasn't televised as far as I'm concerned. The only surviving photo of it is this one. And it said that he actually managed to outclass Michael Jordan in this game, which is why no one's ever seen it except for, I guess, that photo. And it's because of this that it's theorized that when LeBron entered the NBA and started to rival Jordan professionally, Jordan used his fortune, his billions, his monies, his cash, his bread to cover the whole situation up. Make of that what you will, I guess. Gangsters, Ghostwrite, mob films. I didn't find anything on this. Not a single thing on this. I found absolutely nothing. I might just be stupid. I might just be like incompetent, but I swear I didn't find anything about this at all. Like it's insane how like I tried. I really did. But there's nothing there. I just found lists for like best gangster movies, and I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. But I could certainly imagine that real life gangsters or mobsters probably did have a hand in making our favorite movies, our favorite crime dramas. That makes sense to me. Especially since these guys had a lot of power back then, and if you were in the music industry, you probably also had some kind of connection to them because they ran everything back in the day. So I could see it happening. Yeah, I could see it. Also, one thing I wanted to mention was that if you go to the page 2 and 3 and beyond, you'll find some interesting search results. Weird search results. I don't know what it's about, but yeah, a little strange. Also, if you notice that it's gotten noticeably bluer, it's getting darker outside, so I'm sorry for the if there's an apparent change in lighting. That's why, and I apologize. Sacred Sword of the Patriots League. I'm gonna have to read some of this. I'm sorry. This was a sustained black operation that originated in the CIA and was carried out by the Military Assistance Command, Vietnam Studies and Observation Group during the Vietnam War. It involved a combination of psychological warfare and psychological operations. It attempted to convince the people and the government as well of North Vietnam of the existence of non-communist groups in North Vietnam. They operated in small 6-man teams, recon teams, created to gather intelligence and impede with the North Vietnamese army and their ability to engage in war against South Vietnam. There's a lot more history that goes on with this, but this is just the baseline for what this was about. Not really a conspiracy since the information is now public knowledge, although at the time this was a top secret group doing a top secret mission. But yeah, no longer a conspiracy. This is the conspiracy. This is no longer a conspiracy, but it was at some point. Bella was connected to occultist Nazis. Now, Bella was a woman whose skeletonized remains were found inside a windchelm tree on April 18, 1943 by 4 boys searching for birds' nests. In 1941, a graffiti message was found sprayed onto a building in Birmingham that said, "Who put Bella down the windchelm?" Several proposals for who this woman was have been considered, such as a sex worker who was reported by her coworker for having gone missing, or a woman who got drunk and was put inside a tree as some kind of weird lesson in responsibility or something, or even perhaps also speculated to have been a German spy. But the weirdest theory that I've seen is that she was killed by an occult group or Romani people who, I don't know what they had against her. But the reason people think this is because they found the body, but the body did not have hands. So in this group, there is a ritual called the hand of glory, and that's what they do. They take your hands. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of bullcrapping right now because I didn't actually look into what that means, but I'm just gonna assume it's some weird culty stuff that maybe I'm better off not knowing, but that's the gist of it. And that's the end of tier 2. Now we're moving on to tier 3. We're about halfway through this half of the iceberg. Romans in the Americas. So this theory suggests that the Roman Empire discovered the New World before Vikings and before the Pilgrims did. And the evidence for this is actually interesting. So they found artifacts and inscriptions, stones in parts of North America and South America that literally talk about civilizations that didn't exist here at the time, rulers, kings that came here that aren't from here. Notably, a 3,000-year-old mummy was found in the desert near Cairo, which has been found to contain large amounts of tobacco and cocaine, which are things that you only get in the U.S. of A. And that'd be kind of weird. Why was he buried with that stuff if that stuff doesn't grow in Egypt or Africa, the Middle East? That doesn't really exist there. So. And there's many more examples of weird things that people find in other places that are from here, but they found them over there, and they're dated for thousands of years ago. So it's interesting stuff, I think. 1896 Bigfoot Corpse. What this is referring to is of a photo of what's alleged to be a corpse of an actual Bigfoot or a Sasquatch that was uncovered a couple decades ago. Actually, very recently, this photo has been circulating around the internet, and it depicts this photo, and it depicts what appears to be a corpse, and you can see how I think I just scraped my mic. I'm sorry. You can see, the body and the kind of like what looks like fur. It looks like it's sitting. It looks like it's laying down, mostly on like its front side, a little bit to the side. So you don't get a whole lot of detail, and all the white in the picture also makes it kind of difficult to discern certain things. But the story behind this appears to be that two hunters found this creature and it, and it appears to be small for a Sasquatch, although there's a theory suggests that this one was a younger one, I guess a child, I guess, in terms of like Sasquatch years. I'm not sure. I don't know how that works. I don't follow that kind of thing. But the real conspiracy is just in who took the photo, which we don't know. We know it was taken in British Columbia around that time period, and we also know that there's a note in the back that seems to insinuate some kind of cover-up, some kind of greater conspiracy going on around Bigfoot in that area, which that area is known to have, I guess, that kind of superstition around it. And the general lack of information is very interesting, and also this kind of almost the suppression of information, because this photo, out of every Bigfoot photo, is the only photo that where there really is no information about it aside from what we can see, what we can discern from what the back of this photo, what it reads on it, and also the date that's on it, and lots of other factors that I can't get into right now. But there's actually a really good video that somebody made on YouTube that explains the story behind all this. I'll link it on the description because it's really good. It's very interesting. I personally don't subscribe to that, but it's a very, very interesting, very informative video about this specific photo. And honestly, there probably is the biggest evidence that there might ever be for Bigfoot and Sasquatch, whatever, being an actual thing. But yeah, interesting stuff. Smallville cancellation due to cult. This is referring to the idea that Smallville was canceled or ended at 10 seasons because of a very real event where one of the co-stars, Allison Mack, participated in a real life Kith cult that recruited people on and off set, and they were doing weird stuff. They were doing very unsettling things with each other, and the theory suggests that is part of the reason why the show was ended when it did. I don't recall Smallville ever being canceled. It was never told why it ended when it did, so I guess that's the conspiracy, is that it ended because people were catching wind that something weird was going on. And so that's essentially the theory. Winona Ryder studio footage. So this is talking about how in the 1980s both The Godfather Part 3 and Goodfellas were being filmed at the same time, and so this is saying that Winona Ryder was supposed to play Michael Corleone's daughter in Godfather Part 3, but dropped out due to nervous exhaustion, and would then go on to be replaced by, future Oscar winner, you wouldn't believe it at the time, but future Oscar winner Sofia Coppola, whose performance was so panned and disliked in the movie that it contributed to the movie not doing as well as the last two. And the conspiracy goes that Warner Brothers had a role in Winona Ryder's sickness, her having to drop out of the film. I mean, big if true, because that would be, I mean, that's kind of funny, like Warner Brothers, like sneaking, like, I don't know, like, can you imagine a movie studio being like, we're gonna go ahead and poison the actress that you're gonna hire because we can't afford her to have her do that. So yeah, wild stuff. Loggers kill zoologist. I believe this is referring to the famous murder case of Diana Fossey, who was an American primatologist and conservationist working in Rwanda. So the story goes that the early morning of December 27th, 1985, Fossey was discovered murdered in the bedroom of her cabin located at the far edge of the camp in Virunga Mountains, Rwanda. She was found beaten to death and with a large gash in her forehead from an axe, I suppose, or a machete. However, it's speculated that her death was at the hands of poachers who she regularly fought with for obvious reasons, not loggers. But even that is put under scrutiny. That explanation is kind of seen like it's like probably not. It was probably more likely just the fact that she was kind of mean to her coworkers, and she would regularly have like verbal fights with them. And so I guess one of them might have just gotten tired of her. Who knows? We still don't really know what happened there. This might not be what OP was referring to, but it is the closest I could find to this kind of story. It's an interesting story. There's actually many more things that go into it, but like I said, I can't spend that much time on everything because if I do, we will be here for like years. So I'm trying to keep it a little bit concise and just kind of give you the main idea of every entry. 2016 Coup Attempt. Ooh, it's gonna be fun. So this is not referring to the coup attempt in Turkey. That's a different situation. What this is referring to is the 2016 U.S. election, where it's popularly theorized that there was an attempt to stage the election, rig the election. One party tried to sway enough electoral votes in their favor as opposed to the favor of the other party or the other candidate, in order to, I guess, steal the election. I wouldn't know anything about that. I never heard about anything like that. No, it's just all fun and games, right? I'm joking. I'm having a laugh. But that's just a theory, that's just, there's no truth to that. There's not a single bit, not even a little bit. Nope. U.S. Navy encountered unknown animals in the Congo. This refers to an alleged encounter by a unit of Navy SEALs in the Democratic Republic of Congo of these strange ape-like creatures between the years 1997 and 2002. They're described as being bipedal, 4.5 to 5 feet tall, uniformly gray all over their bodies, with rows of seemingly porcupine-like quills, or I guess quills, running the length of their backs. These quills would stand up when excited or agitated. Apparently there exists at least 3 minutes of footage of one of these creatures that's since has never been found, never been described. So it's like just lost footage. We don't really know if it exists or not. It's just kind of legend that it does. That is the end of tier 3. So now we're moving on to the last tier for today, tier 4. Japanese interference in the American Civil War. So this is talking about how on June 25th, 1863, the Japanese attacked the USS Pembroke, a merchant ship in the strait. In response, the US sent the SS Wyoming to retaliate. It was the first time that a foreigner had ever attacked Japan during their campaign to expel foreigners. And this has a background, very extensive background. Back in this time, Japan was opening itself up to the world, and there were people in Japan that didn't agree with this. They wanted things to be more traditional, more isolationist. And so those people would gain power, and they tried to take Japan back to their more feudal times. And so they were kind of having their own little mini civil war. But that's why they attacked the United States, because we had a trade agreement with them, and they were like, "No, we don't want that." There's just a lot of like context and a lot of background that goes into this. I'm making it seem like it's like super random, but it's not. There is a lot of context, a lot of history. But again, can't get too much into that because not enough time. 1901 Everest Expedition. So what this is referring to is a theory that suggests that as early as 1901, somebody managed to get to the peak of Everest instead of the previously thought of earliest attempt, which was in 1922. And the evidence for this is people have found clothing and notes, among other things, that date back to before the first attempt was recorded, or the first successful attempt was recorded. So the theory states, although there might have been somebody else that did it before they did, that's it. That's just somebody might have gotten there before they did. German TV alien hijack. So in 2004, during a commercial for the car brand Mini, this station was hijacked and the screen went to static for 30 seconds before cutting to what appeared to be inside of some kind of facility where this alien creature was sitting at a desk and had a piece of paper with him, like that he was going to read off of, or that he was reading off of, saying things, alien language, whatever, but that he looks to his left and then looks back at the camera all confused and doesn't quite understand what's going on. And then after that moment, it cuts back to the whatever program they were watching. So after this, the station said that it was an ad for Halo 2, and they actually reran the ad after this. But people that experienced it, they say that what they ran was not at all what originally aired. That they, it was a hoax. Like they pumped out a whole new thing to cover up the original, which was, I don't know, something more real, I guess, or something along those lines. But I mean, I think it's safe to say that it was just either it was a different version of the same ad that just didn't test well, or it was like just bad memory. People saw the first one and they were so shocked by what they saw that they thought it was worse than it actually was, because that happens all the time. It's like it's not quite Mandela effect, it's something else. It's just faulty memory. But it is kind of weird that information, there's no footage that exists of it. There's this footage of the recreation that exists, but nothing from the original broadcast. So we don't know what the original looked like. We just know that it was weird and spooky, and people got scared, and people thought they were seeing actual aliens, but most likely wasn't. Most likely just faulty memory. And most of these people were kids when they saw it, so that probably had a factor in it too. "4chan predicted Epstein's death." So a 4chan user posted this message 30 minutes before Epstein's death was first reported. "Don't ask me how I know, but Epstein died an hour ago from hanging, cardiac arrest. Screen cap this." This has led many to speculate who this was, how they knew this information, because it was accurate. He did hang himself. Although, honestly, if you ask me, this wasn't a prediction. This was a leak. This was like straight up somebody that knew that it was going to happen. Told people, a while before it was first reported on the news, which is kind of scary, but interesting. I wonder who. Put your theories down in the comments for who that might have been. Yura Yezuov is allegedly a serial killer operating in Russia. He's been connected to online video blogs and personality tests, but these are lost. I can't find anything on him. I cannot find anything on him besides links to a personality test or some kind of weird. There was this weird page that mentioned that he had a blog, and yeah, that's it. It's like there's nothing there. One of the pages that it brought me to used a photo that will haunt me for the rest of my life. It's actually the photo of a famous Spanish case. It's this one. I hate it. But yeah, I can't find anything about this guy. I don't know. Either he doesn't exist or he's just really good at disguising his existence, because like I literally don't know. I don't know who he is. Why is he even on this list? Why is he a conspiracy? Why is he here? But yeah, strange stuff. Hollywood studios funded Dominican gang war. Guys, I didn't find anything on this. Not a single thing. I tried 3 different search engines. 3. I didn't find a single freaking thing. I don't know what this is talking about. I can only assume that this is talking about, I guess, Hollywood producers more so than the actual studio having a hand in Dominican gang wars specifically for some reason. I don't know. I mean, big if true, but I don't see why that would happen. But I mean, I guess it wouldn't be the first time that they were involved in gang stuff. I guess it's par for the course. Tuesday afternoon. I don't know. Somebody to fill me in if they know what this is about, because I don't. I tried. I don't know. African colonization of Central America. So between the 1490s and the 1850s, very long span of time, Latin America, including the Spanish-speaking Caribbean and Brazil, imported the largest number of African slaves to the New World, operating the single greatest concentration of black population outside of the African continent. Lots of these black people were free men and women, so they had or I guess they, by proxy, they sort of poured their culture, mixed their culture in with the Latin culture of the region. And that's where, I guess that's the theory goes, that's where you get that history goes, it says that that's how you get Afro-Latino culture and people and all that stuff. I might just be dumb. I might just be dumb. I might just be bad at research. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't see how this fits into the iceberg, especially tier 4. Like, what is the conspiracy here? What is the strange, the weird, the terrifying part of this? Black people exist in Latin America. I don't know. And that looks to be it for today. Quite a ride. Hopefully you enjoyed watching this. I enjoyed making it, researching for it. I know that maybe after the editing process this would actually be shorter than I thought it would be, but either way I thought it's better to kind of split this in 2 parts, because the latter half does get a bit more a little bit serious. So I think this is a good place to end. But hopefully you enjoyed this iceberg, or this half of the iceberg, because I know I did, and I thought it was interesting. And I just want to say, thank you for watching. Thank you for, being here with me. Even if you never come back, it's like, hey, you were here this time. That's what counts. So yeah, hopefully I can do part 2 soon. Yeah, I'll be working on that after I edit this. And let me know what your favorite conspiracy was of these first 4 tiers. I think so mine is somewhere between the Sasquatch and the I don't know, maybe the extinct animal thing, because I'm just like, what? But hey, let me know in the comments what you think. And also, if you have any input on like what some of the entries were that I couldn't find anything on, maybe if you could, that'd be great. Let me know in the comments. I would much appreciate being told how stupid I am, because like I might just be. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.